It is March 29th, 2021, and this is my latest video on where Americans can travel. Follow along.
Hey, watching man, right now you're watching DC Born Rob on YouTube. Make sure to hit like and subscribe.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located, and thanks for watching. My name is Rob Christian, also known as DC Born Rob or DC Rob. I go by them all. Thank you guys for watching. Again, in this video, I'm going to go over places you can visit in the world for Americans right now for March 29th, 2021. I am going to jump in now, but I also want to let you know right off the bat that there is still a PCR requirement. There's been no official notice from the Colombian government as of yet. So they are still looking for the negative PCR test results to enter. Also, keep in mind, it is 96 hours before the time of your flight when you have to take that test. Okay, so show up with the test results. I wouldn't wait until you get there. Unless you're paying, like somebody told me they're paying $300. Man, I think $300, if I really wanted to go, I would just take the test on the other side. I'm not spooning out $300, but then that's just me. So let's just jump into this list. Okay, this story is entitled, Where Can Americans Travel? Right now, I'm choosing Smart Travel as my resource. It seems to be updated as of a few days ago. But again, as per usual, I want to focus on Latin American countries, Central and South America. So this says, with the seventh most powerful passport in the world, Americans are used to the privilege of access to almost any country on demand. Before the pandemic, Americans could travel to 185 of the world's 195 countries visa-free or without a visa or with a visa on arrival. But due to the high coronavirus rates in the United States, dozens of destinations, including the European Union, have deemed the United States high risk and closed the doors to Americans. So what countries can Americans visit right now? Some countries have slowly begun to re-accept U.S. passport holders, providing they agree to specific regulations such as PCR testing for COVID-19 or mandatory quarantines. You'll also need to show a negative PCR test result taken up to 3 days prior to your flight to aboard any aircraft returning to the United States. For overseas, alternatively, you can show medical documents if you have had COVID-19 in the past 90 days. The situation is still in flux and each country has different requirements. All the changes have left many travelers confused about the countries Americans can visit now. If you're thinking of heading overseas, here's what you'll need to know about where you can go, what requirements are needed for American visitors. Okay, again, I'm going to read all the full list of countries that Americans can go to right now. But again, I want to pay special attention and read the details for Central and South America because it's just the easiest for us to get to. And 95% of the time, this is where we're going to go right now. Okay, number one, Albania. Number two, Anguilla. Okay, Antigua and Barbuda. This one's near. American visitors are welcome to come to these sun-soaked islands, provided that they have a negative PCR test taken up to 7 days before flying there. Again, I don't get that, but all arrivals must complete a health declaration form and wear a mask in all public areas. You also have to register with the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and the Environment by providing information here, and there's a link, or by calling this number. There's also a recommended quarantine period of 14 days, and the health authority may require further PCR test. It's recommended because if you test negative on the second test, you may be released from quarantine. There's a curfew from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. until April 15th. So they just scratched a lot off that list for me. And that's just too much. Okay, Armenia, Aruba. These Dutch Caribbean islands are back open for business. Americans can visit Aruba's sandy shores, providing they complete an online immigration card and purchase COVID-19 health insurance before arrival. The immigration card must be submitted along with the negative PCR test taken at least 72 hours before arrival. An alternative option is taking a PCR test on arrival, then self-isolating at your hotel until you get your results. There's a curfew from 12 p.m. to 5 a.m. The tourist board made this handy video, and there's a video for COVID-19 protocols. So Aruba's on the list. Bahamas. A travel health visa, $40 to $60, and negative PCR test taken up to 5 days before arrival is required for entry to these picture-perfect islands, which lie just a stone's throw from Miami. Visitors must present the confirmed travel health visa and PCR test result to airline crew before they can board their flight, and show it again on arrival to immigration officials. You'll need to opt in for COVID-19 travel insurance on your visa application. You also have to take a rapid antigen test on day 5, but results come through within an hour. Face masks are required in public spaces, and everyone must self-report their condition via a daily health questionnaire for up to 14 days, or the duration of their stay if under 2 weeks. There is a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew on many of the islands, and traveling inter-island requires an online health application and possible another PCR test too. But that's a rough one too. That's a whole lot of testing and a whole lot of protocols to get there. And then they have a curfew. That's just me. We planned on going, Catherine and I planned on going to Medellin, and then decided not to. Okay, it's raining. We had to wait for her passport to come in. Then once we knew she got her passport, we said, okay, Guatemala. And I said, okay, the prices are too high for the flights. And we ended up staying in the U.S. and we're going to Miami this weekend and to Key West, I believe. So you'll be seeing video on that soon. Just have to travel. We got to travel somewhere. So we're staying in the U.S. for this one. But you can go to Bangladesh. How about Barbados? American visitors to this tropical paradise must complete a PCR test from an accredited facility up to 72 hours before arrival, and online immigration forms 24 hours in advance. The tests must be screened for validity on arrival, and you will be required to take a rapid antigen test on arrival too. Wow. The U.S. is still deemed a high-risk country by Barbados, so you'll need to quarantine at a designated hotel or approved villa for 5 days. During this time, you'll have to report your temperature and give health updates daily to the public health team, who will check in by call or text. So bring your own thermometer. You'll also have to wear an electronic tracking bracelet. Another PCR test is required on day 5, and if the result is negative again, then your quarantine is over. Everybody has to agree to abide by Barbados house rules, which include mandatory mask in public and abiding by the 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew. Really? I have no inclination to go to Barbados now, and I'm going to have to wear like a GPS bracelet. Not for me. Maybe for you, though, if you want to travel. So Belize. Belize is framed by the Caribbean Sea on one side and on dense jungle on the other. This lush Central American country is asking Americans to present a negative PCR test taken 96 hours prior to travel, an antigen test taken 48 hours in advance, or take a rapid test on arrival in Belize, $50. Wow. That's 2 tests before you go. If you can present a certificate of vaccination against COVID-19, you don't need to take any of these tests to enter Belize. Woo woo, I'm vaccinated. Let's roll, baby. 2 shots in. 2 shots in. Join me. Everyone is asked to download the Belize Health app and complete the questionnaire, which includes booking a gold standard hotel in advance. Then take a screenshot of your QR code ID to show immigration officials at the airport. Masks are mandatory in public. Tourists can move around freely, but are recommended to stick to the gold standard amenities, sites and restaurants in the tourism safe corridor. There is a curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Man, some of these places are locking it tight. Now I ask myself, would I go through this?
No, not a chance. No, not at all. No, none of us not agrees. A chance. Nope, we're all never happen. Nope, none of us are going to say that.
I didn't think so. Okay, here's another one. Bermuda. The country that gave the world Bermuda shorts is also famed for its stunning pink sand beaches. This North Atlantic island requires travel authorization 1 to 3 days prior to arrival, plus a negative COVID-19 test for all arrivals. It must be taken up to 5 days before travel. Then you'll need to take a second PCR test on arrival and quarantine until you receive the negative result, usually within 24 hours. For the first 14 days, you'll also need to wear a $30 traveler wristband. Pretty strict repercussions for removal. Wow. Wow. Further tests are required on days 4, 8, and 14. Alternatively, you're allowed to avoid all this testing and wristband by legally agreeing to a 14-day quarantine. The Bermuda travel authorization is $75, and all arrivals have to report their temperature twice daily online, so bring your own thermometer. Masks are required in all public spaces. You also must take a taxi, not public transport, from the airport and give the driver your contact details for contact tracing purposes. Indoor bars and nightclubs are closed. Wow. I mean, do you really want to get to a beach that bad? Do like I'm doing and go to Miami or go to any shore that we have in the U.S. Outside of Galveston. Bhutan. Okay, you can also go to Bolivia. From the Andes to the Atacama Desert to the Amazon, Bolivia has a lot to offer adventurous travelers. Currently, Americans can visit Bolivia if they provide a negative PCR test taken within 10 days of their flight. Masks are required everywhere in public, and there are health screenings at airports. As with most destinations, changes can be put into effect with no notice, but you can keep an eye on things here, and it gives a link. This is crazy. PCR test 10 days, like you can't get the virus in 10 days. This is crazy. Okay, that's just me. Sorry, I'm over commenting, but Bonaire. You can also go to Bosnia Herzegovina, which we've driven through when we were in Croatia. Really nice. Botswana, Brazil. Okay, it's worth noting that the State Department has slapped a do not travel warning on Brazil right now due to high numbers of coronavirus cases. However, Brazil is still allowing U.S. passport holders to enter for stays of up to 90 days, providing they are by air. You'll need to take a PCR test up to 72 hours before arrival and fill in the traveler's health declaration, whereby you also agree to sanitary measures, social distancing, hand washing, etc. during your trip. The form will be distributed prior to boarding, and you can find it here. It gives a link also. There is also health screening at the airport. Several states and local governments in Brazil have issued mask mandates and movement restrictions, so check your locality to avoid fines or possible arrest. We don't want that. Okay, BVI, British Virgin Islands. All 60 of these glittering reef-lined islands and cays reopened during the first week of December after 9 months of closure. While its borders are shut, the government of this luxury Caribbean destination devised a very extensive COVID prevention program. Visitors need proof of travel insurance with comprehensive medical coverage and a negative PCR test taken up to 5 days prior to arrival. You also need to apply for travel authorization and submit your PCR test results via BVI Gateway app. And there's a link there for that also. On arrival, there's another test. And you'll have to activate a contact tracing app on your phone and put on a government-issued wristband monitoring device. Another GPS to follow you around. For the first 4 days, you must quarantine at your hotel. Then take a PCR test on day 4 using approved transportation to and from the testing site. If you're still COVID-free when the results come back, you can go explore, providing you stay 6 feet from others, wash your hands, and often wear a mask during travel and at the airport. The PCR test wristbands and app are provided at your own expense. $175. Good luck with that. Arrivals by sea are subject to a 4-day quarantine plus PCR testing. This is straight nuts. I mean, I know people want to travel, but who's going to jump through all these hoops? So for all you guys and gals that are going to Colombia, it ain't that bad now, is it? There's no wristband, no GPS to know where you are. So think about it. All you have to do is take a PCR test, and they're getting ready to do away with that now. So for all my Colombian people, release a little bit of that stress because you got it good compared to some of these places. Okay, Cabo Verde, Cayman Islands. Okay, under the first stage of its reopening plans on limited categories of travelers can enter the Cayman Islands, such as for special events, and they need to be approved by Travel Cayman. But if you're among the highest earning digital nomads or just working remotely this year with a high salary, then you're one of the lucky few who can enter. The Global Citizen Concierge Scheme is aimed at long stay travelers who can remain there for up to 2 years. If you meet the criteria, which includes making at least $100,000 annually and are approved, you can enter this tropical paradise with a negative PCR test from an accredited lab taken up to 72 hours before your flight. Then there's a 14-day quarantine period just to ensure you're definitely not infected. Masks are required at airports and on all public transportation. If you want to travel between islands there, you'll need advance authorization and may have to take PCR tests for that too. Okay, Chile. This long strip of land between the Andes and the Pacific Ocean recently featured an Ewan McGregor's motorcycle travelogue, Long Way Up. If that whets your appetite to visit, then you're in luck because Chile is allowing American visitors in with a few conditions, of course. You'll need to complete an affidavit of 48 hours before you leave for Chile. You'll also need to show a PCR test on arrival upon 72 hours in advance. The clock starts ticking when it's taken, not when you get the results. Remember, that's for almost everybody, guys, because I get this question from time to time too. It's from the time you take the test. Or show proof of insurance covering COVID-19. There is a 10-day quarantine, which ends after you take another PCR test. Results may take a while to come, though. And you have to report your health condition daily to the health ministry. You also need to apply a health passport to travel around within Chile. It's only allowed in certain regions depending on their COVID-19 infection rates. There is an 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew, more restrictive in some areas, and masks are mandatory in all urban areas. There you go. Okay, to our favorite, one of our favorites, Colombia. Famous for its coffee-rich culture and friendliness, Colombia is requiring visitors to take a PCR test up to 96 hours before flying there. Alternatively, if you sign a document claiming you were unable to get it tested within the time frame, you can take one upon arrival, then quarantine for as long as the country's health department instructs, up to 14 days. It doesn't take long to get the test results there. Travelers are expected to quarantine for 7 to 10 days and another PCR test between days 3 and 5. I have not heard this anywhere else. And, I've been reporting this for some time now. So take that with a grain of salt. You also must fill out a form before departure and agree to contact tracing while in Colombia. They do check. They do check. All travelers are subject to health screening at airports. Some cities have implemented curfews, and we know about those. Restrictions such as masks and social distancing vary greatly by city and department. And there's a click here for more details. Costa Rica, love Costa Rica. Americans wanting a taste of the slow life in Costa Rica must provide proof of health insurance covering COVID-19 with expenses of up to $50,000 plus $2,000 worth of coverage for coronavirus-related quarantine. Immigration officials in Costa Rica have discretionary powers to decide the duration of your stay and are currently limiting it to correspond to your insurance coverage dates. You need to fill out an online health pass 48 hours before you travel. Face masks are required. Find more details here. That's not a bad one. I mean, get the insurance. I would get the insurance. I would follow along with all of this stuff because I like insurance that pays, not the insurance that don't pay. Cuba, as long as you don't stay in a government hotel, Americans can travel to this Northern Caribbean spot, which is deceptive. We can't just get on a plane and fly there. You need to take a PCR test 72 hours or less in advance of your arrival. You will need to take another one on arrival, then self-isolate for 5 days. On day 5, there's a third PCR test, but if it's negative, you're free to look around as long as you wear your mask. There are some restrictions on interstate travel, and you must have non-U.S. medical insurance, which is usually included in airline price for flights originating from the United States, according to the State Department. I'm not aware that we can just get on a plane and go. If you know about that, you have some information on that specifically for Cuba, please leave it in the comments. Curacao. If you want to visit Curacao's turquoise bays, you must complete an online immigration card, health department passenger locator card, and purchase insurance. You also need to take a PCR test in the 72-hour window before you leave home. There's a curfew from 9 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. Most details are available here. There's a link. Djibouti. You're also welcome to go to Dominica. This sunny Eastern Caribbean enclave is allowing Americans to visit, providing that they show a negative PCR test taken 24 to 72 hours prior to arrival and agree to rapid diagnostic test on arrival. You need to submit a health questionnaire online 24 hours before arrival. All visitors must also agree to scheduled and unscheduled health checks by phone or in person during your stay. You also must quarantine at a COVID certified hotel and take a PCR test on day 5. If the test is negative, the quarantine is over. You'll also need to wear a mask in public. So remember, you Colombian people, you got it easy. Dominican Republic. This tropical paradise requires all visitors to fill out an e-ticket for entry and exit. Until then, you need to fill out a health declaration form to attest of not having any symptoms within the past 72 hours and provide details on where you'll be staying for the next 30 days. Rapid tests are carried out randomly on 3 to 10% of arrivals, and there may be temperature checks at your airports. You must wear a mask in public places, and there is a nationwide curfew from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. during the week and from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. on weekends. Wow. Amazingly, all arrivals get a free temporary health coverage plan, although medical care is limited, so you'll probably still need private insurance, which covers medical evacuation. So that seems like the easiest to get into, Dominican Republic, but I mean, that curfew is tough, 9 p.m. Wow. Ecuador. This environmentally diverse nation slicing through the equator is open to all Americans who can present a negative PCR test taken up to 3 days before they fly and show proof of being fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Bam, I'm in again, 2 shots in. You may also have to take another rapid test upon arrival in Ecuador. So there are special additional requirements for you if you're heading to the Galapagos Islands. You need to take a second PCR test no more than 96 hours before you get to the Galapagos Islands. That's unless you get there within 96 hours of arriving in Ecuador. In which case you can use the same one as you used to get into Ecuador. Okay. You also need a salvoconducto, a safe conduct pass from your tour operator to enter Galapagos. There's a curfew in some areas. Hours may vary by province or municipality. You are welcome in Egypt. You are welcome in El Salvador. If you want to explore a lush landscape, beaches, and archaeology of El Salvador, you can, providing you can show a negative PCR test taken within 72 hours of your outbound travel. Mask must be worn at all times, and there are health screenings at airports. And there's also restrictions on domestic travel. So that's an easy one to get into also, too. I like the ones that say if you are fully vaccinated, I take my Vax card. 2 shots in, baby. Yes. Let's see. Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, the Gambia, Georgia, Ghana. You're welcome in Grenada. If you want to visit the Spice Isle, you'll need to apply for a Pure Safe Travel certificate before you fly. A PCR test taken up to 3 days prior to your travel is also required. You then must quarantine for 7 days at an approved location, then self-monitor and self-report for 7 days after quarantine ends. Grenada is only allowing visitors booking at least 7 days to stay there. On the 5th day of your stay, you must take another PCR test for $150. And I'm guessing these are US dollars when they quote these prices. And after you get the green light, within 48 hours, you're then free to explore, providing you continue to monitor your health and symptoms and self-report for the next 2 days, following social distancing protocols and wear a mask in public transport. Guatemala, my favorite country in the world. Let's put it this way. Antigua, my favorite city in the world. These rainforests and ancient Mayan sites are yours to explore, providing you can show a negative PCR test upon arrival. It has to be taken within 72 hours prior to arrival, and you also must complete the health pass before you arrive. If you were fully vaccinated against COVID-19 at least 2 weeks prior to your travel or recovered from COVID-19 within the past 3 months, you can show medical documentation instead of taking PCR tests. Masks are required in all public places. Gotta love it. Thank you for welcoming Guatemala. I love Guatemala. Haiti, the Dominican Republic's next door neighbor, is still allowing visitors to the U.S. to enter, providing you can show a negative PCR test result taken no more than 72 hours before boarding. Alternatively, you can skip the requirement for a test if you can show medical documents confirming you recovered from COVID within the past 90 days. You'll also be asked to fill out a health declaration form with contact details at your hotel and be subject to health screening at the airport. Masks are required in public, and you may get a check-in form at arrival at the Ministry of Health during your stay. Honduras. This is on my list. El Salvador and Honduras, probably the next two on my list of places I haven't been to. I got to get back to Guatemala. And, of course, Medellin. Honduras. While the country is still recovering from Hurricane Eta, Honduras is still keeping its borders open for tourists, including American arrivals. You need to complete this health declaration and bring a printed copy of it, as well as show a negative PCR test upon arrival. Face mask, hand sanitizer, and social distancing is mandatory. There are restrictions on interstate travel. There's also a curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. By the way, I ate crabs the other day, and I had a couple of cuts on my hand and didn't know about it. We went to the movie the other night. That's right. We went to the movie, the kind that has the booth all around you, so it's just the two of us, like in a little cubby hole. And I used their sanitizer. Oh my God. So remember, if you have any cuts on your hand, that sanitizer is going to kill you. If you go to a place like this where it's mandatory, you must sanitize here, sanitize there. Let me tell you something. An open cut will kill you, bro. Ireland. Okay, Jamaica. This tropical island of Jamaica is alluring American travelers in, but with certain restrictions. You'll need to apply for travel authorization online in advance, including negative PCR tests from an accredited lab taken up to 3 days prior to your departure date. Then you'll need to quarantine for up to 14 days at the selected hotel upon arrival. The tourist board has a very informative website explaining requirements. There is a curfew and some restrictions on interstate travel. I would say just, you go to a resort and you just stay there. Jordan is open for us. Kenya is open. Kiribati, Kosovo, Lebanon, Malawi, the Maldives, Mexico. Okay. From the cliffs of Cabo San Lucas to the sun-kissed shoreness of the Mexican Caribbean, Mexico is still open to its American neighbors. There's health screenings at airports, but when it comes to rules on mask and curfew, they are highly regionalized. Some states, such as Quintana Roo, known for the tourist playgrounds of Cancun and Cozumel and Playa del Carmen, are enforcing mask wearing in public, limiting how many people can enter shops and installing hand sanitizer stations. Details state by state are available on this page. Unfortunately, infections are on the rise, and the government is poised to take extraordinary measures to curb the virus spread, so be prepared for sudden changes. Boom. Go to Mexico, be careful, things can change. And I know everybody that gets stuck outside, that are worrying about getting stuck. If anybody knows of anybody that's got to Medellin or Colombia and tried to come back and had a positive test, have that person contact me. I'd like to do a story on them. And I know there's been communication. I'm not saying do this, but there's been comments and suggestions that they have not closed the border between Tijuana and San Diego and the United States, so people can fly into Tijuana and walk across the border. I'm not saying do that. Anyway, Mozambique, Namibia, Nicaragua. Okay, this beautiful country, noted for its lakes, volcanoes, and beaches, is less touristy than its neighbor, Costa Rica. A negative PCR test or serology test is required to enter Nicaragua, which means you can take the rapid test too. There's a health screening at the airports, and people are encouraged to wear masks, but very few other restrictions are in place presently. So, hey, Nicaragua is wide open. That's on my list too. North Macedonia, Oman, Panama. Okay, Panama. The Panama Canal is a sight to behold, and if you can present a negative PCR test taken 48 hours before you fly, you'll be allowed into Panama to see it. Alternatively, you can take one on arrival for $50. Shoot, that's an easy one. I would take that when I get there for $50, because trying to get a PCR test result in the U.S. in 48 hours that's a tough one. It cannot be guaranteed. All visitors must sign a sworn affidavit requiring their health, and then will receive a QR code to show to immigration officers on arrival. There is a national curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. and some additional restrictions and curfews in several regions of Panama. Everyone must wear a mask that covers their nose and mouth in public, or they're subject to a fine and detention. Okay, Paraguay. The heart of South America is welcoming all nations, including Americans, as long as you'll fill in the health card 24 hours before travel and can show a PCR test within 72 hours of your flight. You'll need to print out the health form, which contains a QR code that will be scanned before you can board, and again when you get off the plane. You'll need to show proof of travel insurance that covers COVID-19. Masks are required in public, and there's a curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. That's 8 p.m., man, that's shutting down your day. I mean, I go on vacation to stay out late. And go figure, we're going to Miami, and Miami Beach has a curfew at 8 o'clock. Crazy. Peru. This fascinating country is allowing American visitors in if you can present a negative PCR test, antigen test, or a medical certificate. Epidemiologist discharge conducted within 72 hours of departure and fill in a health declaration form first. However, when you arrive, you need to quarantine for a full 14 days. You can't visit for less than 14 days. There you go. Mask must be worn in public, but there's a curfew from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Wow, every day. Face shields are required in addition to masks when traveling interstate. Crazy. Rwanda, you are welcome in St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia. Okay, St. Lucia's. Americans are welcome for this beautiful island if they fill out 2 special forms and present a PCR test taken up to 5 days before they travel. Bring printouts of test results, order response, email, and travel authorization letter. Travelers from outside the CARICOM bubble must stay at an approved hotel for the duration of their stay unless they are transferring to another approved hotel or taking part in hotel activities. After 14 days of quarantine at their hotel, they're free to explore. Face masks are required in public, and there's a curfew from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. during Easter weekend. Okay, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As with many of the Caribbean islands open to U.S. travelers right now, St. Vincent and the Grenadines require you to complete a pre-arrival form and take a PCR test. This test must be taken no more than 72 hours before arrival. You'll need to prove you have a reservation at an approved quarantine hotel. May have to take another PCR test upon arrival, then will have to quarantine at an approved hotel for 14 days. Wow. You will be retested for COVID-19 between days 4 and day 6. Wow. I'm sorry, day 7. Sao Tome and Principe. Senegal is open. Serbia is open. Seychelles. Saint Martin. And these are the Dutch French islands. Whether you're going to the French side or the Dutch side of this popular Caribbean destination, you need to complete an online immigration card and present FDA approval rapid antigen test taken up to 48 hours before your flight. This includes antigen tests with emergency use authorization, but excludes some tests in addition. You'll have to show a signed statement that you have no coronavirus symptoms and you haven't been in contact with anyone who's had COVID-19 within 14 days of your flight. You'll also need to monitor your temperature and look for symptoms for 14 days. Health insurance is another requirement for entry. The St. Martin Protection Plan covers any COVID-related cost for travelers that test positive while they're on the island. Masks are required in public, and there are temperature scans and officials watching for people who might be displaying coronavirus symptoms at the airport. So don't go to the airport coughing and, hold that cough. The tourist board posts updates here, and they give you a couple links. Okay, South Africa is open. South Korea is open. Sri Lanka is open. Tanzania is open. I want to go to Tanzania too. Thailand. Now here's a good one. Thailand, and I'm going to read this one solely because a lot of, expats and a lot of my main travel group, they go to a lot of different countries from Thailand to Vietnam to Philippines as well. So let me read this one for you. The Land of Smiles has recently reopened to travelers of all nationalities, including Americans, and is one of the few countries that has been praised for its exemplary handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. As such, life is near normal for Thais now that the CDC rates it as one of the lowest risk countries. But in short, and I'm going to read this one paragraph, to keep things that way, they're requiring visitors to apply here for 7 days, and gives you a link. If you're a traveler from a visa-exempt country like the USA, this is one-stop portal where you can apply for a certificate of entry. Approval takes 3 days. Then you must book an alternative state quarantine, including luxury hotels, through the same portal within 15 days of visa approval. In short, you need to stay at that hotel for 14 days. Okay, so just you are welcome, and they're going to give you PCR tests throughout that, but you're going to have a 15-day quarantine. So if you're going to stay for a long time anywhere, it's worth it. But if you're not, I mean, that's on you. Okay, Tunisia is open. Turkey is open. Turks and Caicos. Okay, Americans can visit these pretty cool islands as long as they obtain pre-authorization that involves submitting a negative PCR test from an accredited lab via the country's special web portal. It has been up to 5 days before travel, as well as health questionnaire. You'll need the travel insurance from an approved issuer. On arrival, there are health checks like temperature screening at the airport. Some visitors may be required to undergo another PCR test or blood sample. Masks are required in public. Uganda is open. Ukraine is open. UAE, get to Dubai, baby. It looks like Dubai is not as restrictive as Abu Dhabi. So if you're going into Abu Dhabi, you got restrictions. If you're going into Dubai, just get your insurance. And I think if you're going to Abu Dhabi, they have one of those bracelets that you have to wear for 10 days, but you don't need it if you're going to Dubai. The United Kingdom, let's see, Uzbekistan and Zambia. I'm pretty sure Zambia, there any other countries open with a Z? Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Remember, if you're going to Medellin, Colombia, stop by Sweet Georgia Cafe. Go by Brooklyn's. Percentage of the check at Brooklyn's is going to our charity there, which is Comuna 8, the El Faro neighborhood. And make sure if you need travel information, you need tours, you need airport drop-offs, pickups, tests, whatever, make sure you reach out to our guy, Andres at Nomad Travel. His information is below in the description. Thank you guys for watching. If you're getting any benefit out of my videos, do me a favor, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button and like. Like is a good thing. So hit like. It shows it to more people. YouTube says, hey, these people like this video. Let's go ahead and share it. So anyway, thank you guys for watching and be safe.
We have a YouTube channel. Like it. Please comment and share if you like the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.